What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to the Whatcast. Sorry about the ads. We hope you're well. I'm sorry I still sound all groggy.
I also sound sick today. My allergies have been fucking kicking my ass, but I've been doing a lot of gardening, so it makes sense. So I apologize for my shitty voice.
Do you know this is supposed to be my fucking emerald year, they call it?
I don't know what the fuck that means.
I didn't either.
What does that mean?
Somebody told me that, and I had to look it up. It has to do with astrology and my sign. Emerald year, my a-hole.
Yeah, because I was going to say, if it's your emerald year, then it should probably be my emerald year, too, since we were born in the same year.
Yeah, and so close together.
I mean, I don't see any fucking emeralds dancing around here.
No, and I'll take a couple.
Yeah, I'll take one at this point. Give me a fucking emerald. Unless a leprechaun's going to show up and do a fucking jig or, you know, something along those lines, then I'll keep waiting, I guess. We're only halfway there, so we still got another 6 to go.
Yay.
Huzzah.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about alien encounters, or maybe encounters with the unknown, because I don't know what the hell to call mine. But to start it off, Mike, I wanted to ask you, when's the last time you've been absolutely terrified? Was it the deer encounter?
Let me think. The last time I've been absolutely terrified. Yeah, probably the deer encounter. That was really scary because, you know, obviously I didn't know what it was that was making all those noises, but yeah, I can't think of anything that was scarier than that. So let's go with that.
Yeah, other than times like that, I mean, what a perfect recipe for a terrifying moment, like being outside.
I know.
At night in the woods, and then something with
during a power outage.
I wish it was like a storm and you had a flat tire. And
yeah, I know. It really was like the perfect storm, though. It's so funny, everything that fell into place. And then but I think it's awesome because of that. We got a cool song, and I now know that deer are able to scream like a demon.
We'll put our Mike's deer encounter song in the show notes. Now that's something to be scared over, I think. When's the last time you've been scared by something that ended up being absolutely nothing? Because it seems like
the same event that it was a family of deer.
No, see, that's something, though. But, like, when's the last time you saw something that was maybe, like, a pile of clothes or a tree branch that looked weird outside that made you authentically go, what the fuck? I have to check this out.
So, I don't know if this was the last time. It probably wasn't the last time, but it's the most recent time that sticks out in my head. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And this was when we were still at the old house. And across the street from our house was a park and a tennis courts and a basketball court thing. So there was like a little, at night, a single light that would turn on because it was the parks here close at dusk. So when the sun's down, you're not supposed to be there. But they had one light, and it kind of, you know, it's just one light. So in the darkness, it can create these shadows and stuff. So one night it was in the middle of winter, and there's a tree that's like off to the side that was just a little bit closer to my house than the park. And there was a bunch of snow that had fallen. So it was on the part of the tree branches and the tree trunk and everything. And my girlfriend was outside, and she comes in and she's like, I think there's somebody sitting against the tree across the street from our house.
Oh, no.
So I went out and looked, and what it looked like, and we both thought that, because she goes, I think he has a gun. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I go out there, it looked like there was a guy sitting against the tree facing my house with a rifle across his lap. That's what it looked like.
Oh my God.
And so for a while, we stood there just to see if there was any movement or anything. And then we went inside and looked out the window. No movement. Went back outside. Still no movement. So when we went back out and there was still no movement, I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, am I going to see a dead body? Like, I was so convinced. And I walked across the street and all it was snow that had gotten caught in recesses on the tree trunk, combined with the weird lighting and the shadow, and it looked, and then the what I thought was a rifle was a stick that had fallen over, but it looked just like a dude sitting against a tree facing my house with a rifle across his lap.
God, what did you do? Like, did you end up just walking over there or calling the cops?
Yeah, no, I didn't call the cops. Because I wasn't 100% convinced. Yeah, it looked exactly like a person, but there was no movement at all. And we didn't see, it was winter, so if someone had been there, we would have at least seen the gusts of steam from their breath.
Right.
And I didn't see that. So I'm like, worst case scenario, this guy killed himself and I'm going to find him. But I don't want to call the cops yet, because if I call the cops and they come and it's just a fucking shadow or something, then I'm going to feel like a real dumbass. So I walked over there. I got like halfway to the tree before I realized what it was. And I started laughing and turned around and walked back. And my girlfriend's like, what is it? Like, and I'm like, it's fucking, we're just idiots. It was nothing. It's just snow, shadow, and wood. That's all it was.
That's crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah. So do we have to make a Suicide Snowman song?
I think so. We have to now with a name like Suicide Snowman.
Like Suicide Snowman.
Yeah, it just last night actually. The doorways from like my living room to our hallway, it's huge. It's like 2.5 doors wide, and when it's cold out, we hung curtains to close it up for like to save heat, keep the living room warm. And every once in a while, I'll try to walk through it while somebody else here will try to walk through it, and we'll go whoa, But I'll admit, as a man, when we get scared, we all do when we get authentically spooked by something, startled, we will all do like a half-cocked ninja movement. Mike, do you admit to doing that at all? Like, at least like...
Yeah, like you pull your arm back, like that's going to do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once in a while they'll get me with one of those. But last night, it was late. I had all the lights off, and I guess my daughter saw that I was up and went to go into the living room while I was leaving it, and I got from a clenched fist to cocking it back to raising my fist and halfway throwing it. That's like the closest I've come to to actually making contact with any of them during something like that, because she scared the holy hell out of me to where I thought I was like, this is it, do it.
You just you just take her right off her feet with this blaster with an uppercut.
My God. Yeah, it wouldn't be good, dude. I'd like scream like, take that, demon. It's like
Hadouken.
It would have been terrible.
Well, I for one am glad that you didn't beat the shit out of your kid.
Me too. I was like, dude. And they always go, yeah, and laugh, because there's tons of videos on the internet of people doing that. The famous "I wasn't even worried, bro" video. Have you seen that?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Sorry, everybody. Hold on. We're going to have to show this to Mike. This is like oh my God, the most hardcore ninja jerk reaction to being spooked ever.
All right, I'm pulling it up now.
What was that going to do anyway?
Wow.
What was he going to do? Double fists, whatever it was.
But just like the look on his face, he's just so nonchalant. Like he doesn't give a fuck. He's like, ninja move, don't care. Fuck you up.
Well, I've got a story that'll probably make
Does it involve ninja moves? Because if it doesn't, like, I don't care. I just want to hear ninja move stories now.
Maybe. I mean, I would do a ninja move. This guy he does something that could be considered a ninja move.
All right, cool.
But I like the story because I almost wanted to make sound effects for the entire telling of this story because it's totally something that could happen to you specifically.
To me specifically?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Nice.
Yeah. It happens to a guy who does something that you do religiously. And that's like house chores and stuff, working on the house, gardening and stuff. But the story comes from the January 22nd, 1902 edition of the Ashbury Park Evening Press. It reported that an incident took place the day before on January 21st. One Mr. Dan Posak of Millville, New Jersey, was doing some work around the house, repairs, and working on his garden, when he suddenly heard large footsteps coming from his backyard. Alarmed, he stopped for a moment to listen, and then he started to hear somebody call his name. Dan headed out to his backyard, and after searching for a minute, he was met with what he called a monster beast bird.
A monster beast bird. Awesome.
Yes.
Love it.
It was a giant bird that he said was at least 18 feet tall.
Holy shit.
Yeah, this is pretty much a fucking dinosaur at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was a T-Rex ghost, because they're saying that T-Rex was covered in feathers now, so... T-Rex ghost? Huh? Dinosaur ghost.
Well, it approached Dan, and I want you to guess what it did after it approached our buddy here.
Did it sniff him?
No.
Did it get down and give him a...
God, 18 feet. I mean, it was already stomping enough to catch. Yeah, walks up to Dan, where it politely asks him.
It asks, okay.
Speaking perfect English.
Yeah.
Where the garbage can was.
Excuse me, sir. Could you tell me where the garbage can is? What the hell does a dinosaur need a garbage can for?
Right? You got to do it in like a dinosaur bird voice. Pardon, sir. Do you have a proper press receptacle?
In my head, he just sounds like a British gentleman.
Yeah.
Like he walks up and it's like you're expecting this big roar and he's like, "Excuse me, sir. Where could I find the rubbish bin?"
But like in Solomon Grundy's voice, but that proper.
Yeah. He extends his pinky as he talks, and somehow a monocle finds its way into his eye. Where the fuck did that come from, giant bird?
Many pardons, sir.
Every time he looks at it, he's got a new gentlemanly thing. Like all of a sudden, a top hat appears, and then a bow tie. And
he looks back at his house, and it turns around. It's got a pipe.
Yeah,
that would be great. But what really happened is that Dan became overcome with terror, so he ran to his barn. But only after making it a few feet, the giant bird snatched Dan up off the ground by his torso with its beak, which he described as red and sinewy.
Ew.
While holding Dan in its mouth, it again asked where the garbage can was. Dan then retrieved a small hatchet he had kept on his belt. It began to chop the holy living shit out of this bird.
What a Dan is an asshole. Fuck you, Dan.
It seized him by the torso. This is when I'd start.
Well, here's the thing. It was just all he had to do was say it's in the fucking garage. He didn't have to go nuts with a hatchet.
Right. You know what?
Listen, don't ever be named Dan, first of all. But second of all, don't swing on things that are trying to clean up the environment with an axe.
Well, you know, when it showed that level of intelligence to be able to ask me where the trash was, maybe that would have gave me pause. And maybe the fact that
I doubt it, Mateo. We've heard about your fucking what you do to lizard wizards.
It's them
no questions asked. And I could easily see you somehow looping this in with lizard wizardry. Feathers or not.
Right.
It's a dinosaur wizard.
Just climbed its leg like Shadow the Colossus and put my knife in its stomach and drug my body down it.
Yeah. I would absolutely see you doing that.
Well, Dan stated that he was shocked to see splinters of wood fly off the creature as he hit it.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
I thought it was sinewy.
Yeah.
Now it's made of wood.
Not its beak. Its face.
What?
And he said it was like as if it was made of some type of wooden material, but probably like not wood. But the creature set Dan down and leaned close to him and whispered something into his ear. And Dan didn't fucking take the time to listen. He took his axe and smashed the bird right in its face this time, a direct blow to the face. And it knocked out one of the creature's eyeballs.
And was it an actual eyeball, or was it really a painted bowling ball?
He had no time to check because the creature let out a horrifying scream.
Well, yeah.
Recoiled and then flew away. But it didn't fly away in a way that you think. Again, I would love for you to guess. How did an 18-foot tall bird fly away?
I'm going to guess in a manner much like Powdered Toast Man, where it flies ass first off into the sky.
That would have been my new favorite cryptid if that was so. It's probably a Ren and Stimpy character, but it screamed, put its arms out, and then started to inflate itself like a cartoon until it floated away at a slow and steady pace.
Listen, I stand by the fact that Dan is a dick, and this thing wanted to throw something away, and so he ran from it, and it's like, sir, excuse me, and it tried to detain him so it could get an answer from him. And then he attacks it, and then it tries to whisper a secret to him. Who knows it? It could have been like the secret to the universe. He didn't even pay attention and fucking knocks its eyeball out like a big fucking asshole. This thing didn't harm one hair on his head. He came out unscathed, and instead he's like, yeah, I took out the eye of the giant sinewy wood giant bird demon thing. That's what I did. Meanwhile, poor fucking cardboard bird man is crying in the corner after he inflates the balloon sack underneath him and floats away.
-1 eyeball.
Yeah, because Dan's an asshole and fucking chopped it out. Total dick move, Dan.
We should take this time to say that encounters with weird creatures and aliens alike shouldn't end up this way, especially ones that can talk that well. This was definitely a fumble on Dan's part.
Mateo, are you turning a new leaf?
No, I mean, if it's intelligent.
So are you saying if a lizard were to show up at your house and want to have a conversation, you would offer it perhaps a beverage, maybe a refreshing snack?
100%, but the second I saw a medallion or a wand, it's fucking dead. New jacket time.
So that's the line. If it's wearing jewelry or needs a walking stick, it's dead.
Yeah, that's what was the trigger during the Vietnam encounter that I made up, is that it would have been like, oh my God, it's a lizard, and then it put on its hat and robe, and I would be like, no, that's too much power. It cannot be.
What about lizards with a beard? If you see a bearded lizard.
A bearded, we might have some camaraderie there. I might be like, how long did that take?
So beards do not automatically equal wizard then?
Yeah, I think it's just like a weird negative imprint in my mind from like old sci-fi movies when it's just like a lizard skinny, just like, what's that?
With a medallion, creepy medallion.
Like a purple cloak. It just bleeds into looking like a fucking D&D creature.
Yeah, but not You are a heroic bugbear. You should know better than anyone that appearances do not necessarily indicate alignment.
That's true. But I would have shot those giant yellow walking monsters that other troops saw in the jungle in that episode as well. That was a creepy episode.
And don't forget the naked bird woman.
Yeah, my favorite kind of bird woman.
The naked kind.
Hearing a story like this, I mean, I couldn't help but laugh the whole way through. I can't take it too seriously, but I don't think there's anything that says or points to me making a decision that I shouldn't. This guy didn't try to do anything else with the story afterwards. This is the only mention that I could find of it. This is like another one of these one-off weirdos that we love. What do you think about this case in particular? I mean, to me, it's just like, I saw this and they reported it and he was like, They moved on with his life.
It sounds like somebody took some sort of children's toy and blew it up and gave it life. Like the fact that it appeared to be sinewy, but when he chopped at it, it was like wood. and it was able to inflate. Like, tell me that doesn't sound like a kid's toy.
But in like 1909, though, I mean, that would be a pretty cool toy to have
From
now.
the future.
Yeah. But I don't know. It kind of made me think about when we covered Spring Heel Jack. You talked about how there was like a known group of people on the East Coast, if I'm not mistaken, that were pranksters.
No, the Spring-Heeled Jack was the oh fuck, what the hell was his name? This noble in England that was known for pranking people. But you're talking about it was in the West during the 1800s where there was prank wars going on, and a lot of the times the newspaper would participate in the prank wars, so they would print these false articles as part of the prank.
Oh, wow. How funny.
Like the one with the airship stealing a cow from a farmer.
Yeah. But for now, it's just going to go into the weirdo one-offs. Giant. I wonder if it looked like a regular bird or abnormal in some way. I wish I can find this article from 19...
I bet it was a giant piñata.
I wish it was like stiff and was just like, sir, can you show me the garbage can? What if it had like all the tropes of like a 50s sci-fi monster, but it's just 1909?
Yeah, it is a bit more interesting that with it being that early on.
Yeah.
And it's out of the 1800s, so it adds a little more credibility.
It does, in all seriousness, making it 18-foot tall costume of a bird that's functional enough to shake the ground and alert somebody inside the house that the same land that it's treading on, and for it to grab him while he's running away, pick him up off the ground, talk while it's got him in its mouth. And inflate itself.
I was wondering if it gets him in his mouth and it's like, where's the girl? What? Whoa, and then he chops it with an axe because he's a dick.
Right. It just kind of seems like he reported it in the newspaper. People were like, okay, it's worth reading. And they didn't even bother asking him proper questions. Like maybe it was talking telepathically. Was part of it made of metal? Was it wood? But he just said wood-like material instead of saying wood. I find that, that's the only clue I got that I can try to put a picture to this thing.
In my head, it's just going to be a giant piñata monster. That's what I want it to be, and that's what it will be. With a hot air balloon attached to it. It's like a reverse parachute. When it wants to take off, it just pulls it and goes whoosh, and takes it up.
Oh, man. New sticker.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my story isn't anywhere near as goofy and probably not as weird. It's kind of a standard potential alien encounter sort of situation. But this happened on the night, or I guess I should say the morning of November 17th, 1966 in Gaffney, South Carolina. And this particular case was reported by a local newspaper and was later picked up by Fate magazine. And then John Keel interviewed one of the witnesses. Before I get into the details, I'll just kind of give a brief overview, and then we'll get into it a bit. But basically what happened was there were two officers, Officer Charles Hutchins and Officer A.G. Husky, were on their regular patrol at 4 a.m. on November 17th.
God, you kind of got to be a cop with a name like A.G. Husky, huh?
Right? Yeah. It's a great cop name.
It is.
Hopefully he retired from the police force and went to Hollywood.
Right. Or just
like
became
there needs to be a character in a movie, A.G. Husky. Officer A.G. Husky reporting for duty.
Or became like a really cool private eye.
Oh, yeah. P.I. Husky.
Oh,
that's
God.
P.I. A.G. Husky.
They'll call him Piog Husky.
Yeah. Piog Husky. Yeah. Good stuff. I hope that somebody wrote this down and does it. Somebody do it. And then let us know so we can giggle and laugh at Piog Husky. Anyway. So Husky and Hutchins, they're on their regular patrol, and they see this weird craft descend from the sky and land on the road, not directly in front of them, but some distance down the road in front of them, completely blocking the road in the direction they were going. So they get out of their vehicles to investigate, and when they take a look, an entranceway opens up, and this weird man comes out of a doorway and just stares at them. So, like I said, this story was originally picked up by a local newspaper and then Fate magazine, basically kind of just giving an overview, kind of like I just gave. They didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but in 1967, it caught the attention of John Keel, who then reached out to Officer Charles Hutchins. What he was hoping to get him to relate the story and what happened. But when he reached out, Hutchins was very reluctant to share his story because he said when they originally reported it, they received a lot of flack for it, basically. And they had heard of other officers or pilots that had reported strange sightings and didn't want to go through the amount of ridicule that these people had to go through. But eventually Keel was able to get him to share his story after he assured him that he's not here to mock him or make fun of him, and was genuinely interested in what he witnessed and wanted to get the information, any information he could provide. And I'm sure he told him like all the shit that he's been researching to kind of set his mind at ease, so he knows he's not talking to someone who's just like, yeah, I'm gonna be your buddy, and then he gets the shit and he's like, this whack job thought he saw, So he convinced him to tell his story, and after being convinced, Hutchins invited Keel and one of Keel's associates to speak with him in an interview room at the police station. So as soon as they get in this room, Hutchins closes the door and immediately tells them that he wants to clear something up that was not included in the reports. So before he even starts and gets into it, he says in the initial reports, the newspaper had stated that the officers saw a little green man. And he said that at the point they were at with getting interviewed, when the reporters had come in and wanted to get a statement from them, they'd been subjected to quite a bit of mockery from their initial report of the incident. So he said that he made an offhanded remark, kind of like a joke, to play with the people that were making fun of him by saying that a little green man had visited them. But it was kind of like a sarcastic comment, but the newspaper ran with it. So he wanted to clear up this was not a green man that they had seen. But he said the figure that the both officers witnessed, his face seemed to be pretty ordinary and human-like, but they weren't able to really determine what the color or complexion of his skin was. But Keel asked him to provide the details of the story that may have been missing from the initial report from the newspaper. So Hutchins decided to tell his story. At the time this happened, he had been a rookie. He had been on the force about 6 months, and his partner, A.G. Husky, he was on the force for 5 years at that point. And they were on an overnight shift on the morning of November 17th. It was around 4 a.m., and they were driving down a pretty desolate roadway that was known as the West Buford Street Extension. And on this particular street, there's a bend in the road that's about 90 degrees. And they said they took the 90-degree turn, and as they came around the turn, they saw this metallic craft in the sky. And from the sky, they watched it descend down towards the road and then land on the road some distance in front of them. But they said when they saw it, they determined, when they first saw it, they figured that it was about 20 feet off the ground, and it was already in the process of descending. So it was descending before they even came around that bend. They just happened to catch it as it was descending, I guess, right before it landed.
Hmm.
And he described this as it was a spherical craft, like a ball, but it had a wide, flat rim around it that was about 20 feet in diameter. And he said there were no lights or windows at all on this craft that could be seen. So they decide to stop their car, because, I mean, obviously they can't go any further down the road because this thing's blocked. So they stop their car. Rather than call it in, they decide to get out and take a look. So they get out to investigate. At this point, they were assuming that it was likely probably some sort of experimental aircraft from the military, and thought that maybe there was something wrong and the pilot might need help. So they were going fully expecting to meet another human and try to help them out in any way they could. But Hutchins said that they were kind of in awe as they approached the object because they had never seen anything that looked even remotely like it. So they're standing there checking it out, not really sure how to approach it because there's no windows, no lights, and they couldn't see any door. So as they're looking at it, a door silently opens on the underside of the sphere, and a ladder drops down. And they estimated the distance from the door at the bottom of the sphere and the ground was between 4 and 6 feet. And this ladder was lowered through the hole all the way to the ground, and they looked up, and from this hole in the bottom of the craft, they said there was white light that seemed to be pouring out of the doorway, and it was so bright that they weren't able to make out anything inside the door. But soon a figure appeared in the doorway and kind of blocked out some of the light, so they were able to see the silhouette of the figure. And they said the figure looked at the two officers for a few seconds, not moving or saying anything, just looking through the doorway at them. And then it decided to start moving down the ladder. As soon as he reached the ground, he walked slowly but purposefully towards the officers, looking at them, and stopped when he got to about 15 feet in front of them. And Hutchins describes the figure as being short, around 4 feet tall, and he said he kind of looked like a 12-year-old boy. So that he looked human, and he appeared to be youthful. He wore a gold suit with no buttons or zippers, and the entire suit appeared to be metallic and reflective in the lights from their police car. So the headlights from their car, they didn't have their, at least I don't think they had their lights on. I think it was just the headlights. But once they really took in this figure, for some reason both of them began to experience extreme fear. This thing hadn't shown any aggression, and again they said it looked like a 12-year-old boy, so really what's to be afraid of? But for some reason they were both terrified. But despite the fear, they kind of felt compelled to speak with the being. But the being itself did most of the talking, and even if they asked it a question, it wouldn't respond, or it would respond with a question of its own. But Hutchins said that the being was very well spoken and did not have any accent that they were able to detect. So it would have been, the way it was speaking would have been local to the area.
Right.
Seemingly, if it has no accent. But he said that this being acted like he knew exactly what he was saying and doing at all times, and he didn't make any quick or false movements. He just stood there and talked to the two officers, and they asked him questions. He wouldn't answer them and would just continue talking. But for some reason, once the encounter was over, Hutchins was unable to recall the full context of what they had discussed. He only remembered little pieces here and there. But he remembered one exchange. He remembers specifically asking this being why he was here And the being ignored him and instead asked why the two men were both dressed alike. So they explained they were police officers and this is the uniform for police officers. And while they were having this exchange, one thing that he did recall about the exchange was that the being's speech was very precise and that he pronounced each word carefully, like he was making sure he got the pronunciation correctly. And another part from this exchange that he remembers was asking him where he was from. And when he asked him that, this being just laughed at him. And he recalled he had a funny kind of laugh, but I don't know really what that means. Like if it was like a goofy sort of laugh, or if it was like funny, like weird. I don't know. But he said the entire exchange with this thing lasted 2 to 3 minutes. And when they had wrapped up, the being just told them, "I will return in 2 days." He said it like that, all broken up, very slow, very precise. And then immediately he turns around, slowly walks back to the craft, climbed the ladder, and entered the vehicle. And he said once he got inside and the door closed, the vehicle began to make a whirring sound that's similar to a car engine idling with a muffler on it. And after a few seconds, the craft flew straight up into the air, and they watched it until it just disappeared into the night sky. So it just slowly faded from view. Later that day, the sun came up, and the two officers got off their shift, and they decided to return back to the scene. They reported it afterwards, and they decided to get the local councilman to investigate with them. And when they went there, they were able to find a set of footprints that resembled a child's footprint, so really small footprints. But that was all they were able to find. But for the next 2 weeks, Hutchins and Husky returned to the landing site, hoping that they would meet this thing again. And on one night, they did see an anomalous orange ball that flew overhead, but it didn't land, and they didn't witness anything else. So after the 2 weeks, they stopped. But Hutchins jokingly said, we may have gone back every night for 2 weeks, but we don't know how long his days are where he comes from. So it could be weeks for us is just an hour for him or something. But after speaking with Hutchins, Keel was actually able to track down A.G. Husky and speak with him over the phone as well. But Husky didn't want to meet in person, and he didn't want to offer anything new, but he was able to confirm that the details that Hutchins related were accurate recollection of the event as it happened. So the thing for me that's weird is, why would this thing tell him it was coming back? Like, in my head, I picture this thing being the thing from the orange fireball, and it flies overhead and sees these two dudes just stand there waiting for him. He's like, suckers. It's just a prank, bro.
You came back, you dummies. That's weird. I mean, a child. I mean, it looked young.
Yeah, they said it looked like a 12-year-old boy.
That's a weird one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird alien encounters that just doesn't make sense. Like, why did it land to begin with? Why did it make them forget what the conversation they had was? And then why did it tell them it would come back? It all seems weird.
Yeah, like nothing makes sense. Like, I mean...
And they didn't report any missing time or anything. They just couldn't remember what they talked about for some reason.
Interesting. Yeah, good point. No missing time. So that all happened in real time. They're just like, I just don't remember what we said.
Yeah, because they said they talked to him for 2 to 3 minutes, and he can only recall that one little section. So I wonder if it revealed itself and like its purpose and everything, and then it was just like, you know what? You're going to forget that.
Yeah, that's weird. That's like an active amnesia.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's just one of those. Why are there so many like just weird random encounters from the 60s? Like the 60s had all the cool shit as far as alien encounters go.
Yeah, those are the greatest books. I love those. I mean, books are structured different now. Like we were just talking about how like I don't think any modern book needs more than 2 pages on the Loch Ness Monster or Amelia Earhart or fucking Stonehenge. The way they did it back then, it was just story after story after story of some of the strangest shit ever. I love that shit. And one thing about those cases is that a lot of the times these people got nothing from telling these stories. There's a few people who tried to, I mean, like we talk about Woody Derberger. I don't think he tried to make a living out of it, but he definitely was interviewed on television, was interviewed by newspapers and shit like that. But he lost his job and his family. And there's a lot of these cases that are the most bizarre to where the people telling the story get nothing.
Yeah, and as Keel noted, he was super reluctant to even tell his story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he reported it initially, but he saw where that got him. So then he shut up about it till Keel came.
Another one case that I'm going to cover pretty soon, the researcher who tells the story actually had to wait for the guy to die.
That's crazy.
It was years and years and years, yeah.
He's like, come on, I want to tell this story. We hurry up and croak. God damn it.
You know, one of these days I want to sit down and pick maybe like 3 or 4 of these old cases like that to where they just don't make any sense and apply it to what we know about all that stuff today. Because the more and more I look back at these cases, it definitely seems like there's multiple groups at work, be it aliens or interdimensional or even human secret operations type stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely connections to it. And I would like to, that sounds fun to look at what it's being reported as it's being reported, but then compare it to what we know and what it could possibly be through that filter.
Yeah. Well, remember guys, if you have an encounter with an unknown being, don't be like Dan. If you run into an 18-foot tall talking bird that asks you where the garbage is, tell him where the fucking garbage is.
I know. He's being an upstanding citizen, wants to throw away his garbage. He's probably a giant bird pinata, and there's probably a bunch of candy wrappers he's just trying to unload. Just help the dude out. Don't gouge his eye out.
What if Dan showed him the garbage and it was like, excuse me, space travel makes me sick, and throws up. He's like, sorry, we puke up gold coins. And you missed out.
Yeah. And by gold coins, he means the gold foiled wrapped chocolate pieces.
I will take it.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.